Hey, all you awesome listeners. You just tuned in to the NetSuite podcast. I'm your host, Kendall Fisher, and on this episode, I'm joined by Outdoor Voices VP of Operations, Nate Peterson, and VP of Technology, Kevin Harwood. Now, if you haven't heard of Outdoor Voices yet, it's an activewear apparel brand out of Austin, Texas. The brand is all about encouraging the world to get moving and have fun while doing it. Peterson and Harwood take us down the Outdoor Voices growth journey from Genesis through today, explaining how the company is differentiating itself from competitors, which includes a focus on community and designing products that people resonate with. However, this journey also includes some big challenges, especially on the business management side of things. Peterson and Harwood explain how Outdoor Voices couldn't scale on the systems it used early on for inventory and financial management, and therefore the two VPs teamed up to find a solution to better fit the company's needs. Listen to the full episode to find out why Outdoor Voices ultimately chose Oracle NetSuite to continue to successfully scale. All of that coming up next.
You're listening to the NetSuite podcast, where we discuss what's happening within NetSuite, why we're doing it, and where we're heading in the future. We'll dive into the details about the software and the people at NetSuite who are behind all the moving parts. We'll also feature customer growth stories, discussing the ups and downs of running a company and how one integrated system can help your business continue to scale.
Before we get into this episode with Outdoor Voices, we want to thank our sponsors over at Hint. Their brand is all about making the everyday more enjoyable. It started when Kara Golden, Hint's founder, needed a way to drink more water, but wanted flavor without all those sugars and sweeteners that come in most drinks. So she created Hint Water. It has just a hint of flavor from real fruit essences without any of those added sugars or sweeteners. If you're thinking about going out hiking with your friends or just finished an awesome workout, Hint is the perfect beverage to rehydrate, especially when you want a little more flavor than just water. Check it out for yourself. Go to hint.co/welcome to get 30% off your first purchase right now. Hi, Nate and Kevin. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the NetSuite podcast, which is taking place at Suite World 19. Have you guys been having a good time?
Having a great time.
Awesome time.
Awesome. Well, as I told our listeners in the intro, Kevin, you're the VP of Technology. Nate, you're the VP of Operations. But before we dive into those roles and how you've utilized NetSuite at Outdoor Voices, can you tell our listeners a bit about Outdoor Voices? What is Outdoor Voices?
Yeah, so Outdoor Voices is an activewear apparel brand. We've been around for 4 or 5 years now. We're based in Austin, Texas, which is a fantastic recreational city. If you've never been down there, it's great.
I haven't yet. You know, it's weird. I've been all over the place. Austin is the one place I haven't been.
It is a great city. In fact, our headquarters are right across the lake from the new Oracle headquarters down there.
Oh,
So
very cool.
we'll have to have you down there.
Yeah,
but
I'd love to.
We believe that we can get the world moving with recreation, and the key part of that is to have fun doing it. And we want a free performance from fitness. You think about maybe some other brands out there. We're not, worried about bigger, faster, stronger. Measuring these detailed metrics. How fast you run the mile today. We believe instead that we want you to just get out with your friends and take a jog, take a hike.
Yeah.
Maybe make a little bikers club and go riding for a couple miles at night, and just have that be a part of your daily ritual. And we want to make apparel that just encourages you to do that and feel great doing it, and surprise and delight our users that way.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good answer.
Wow, you guys work really well together. Good job. I'll stop.
I think to add on top of that, we're making product for recreationalists. And as we define what a recreationalist is, it's whatever you want it to be, right? People that get outside, they have fun, as Kevin mentioned. They enjoy being part of the community. They enjoy getting outdoors and just being active, right?
Yeah.
And we're building a product to help support that lifestyle, support that community, and just help grow with that community. So I think that's where we feel that Outdoor Voices is addressing the specific needs of our customers, our communities, and more importantly, the people that want to grow with us.
Yeah, definitely. Both men and women wear.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
With competitive companies like Lululemon, Sweaty Betty, Lorna Jane, newer brands like Fabletics in the activewear space, what unique business proposition does Outdoor Voices bring? What was the industry lacking that Outdoor Voices fulfilled?
I think that perspective that we just talked about, right? The perspective of building product for human, not superhuman attributes. So people that want to get out, have fun on a daily basis, but don't necessarily feel that they have to enter into a marathon every weekend and finish in first place. So there was a need out there that Ty Haney, our founder, clearly saw and is addressing through the company that we're working for. So I think that's our competitive advantage in both the product itself and the communities that we're inspiring that are acclimating towards that product.
So how does that how does that affect the way you guys design clothing, the way you build, certain campaigns, or the way that you decide whether you're going to put out a pair of running shorts to leggings?
Yeah, I mean, from a campaign perspective, we put regular people
I noticed.
in our campaigns. In fact, a lot of our campaign imagery actually features just employees from the company. So
wow.
Some people from my technology team have been featured in the campaigns.
What about?
Not in the campaign.
I was going to say, what about you guys?
I have yet to be featured.
One day.
I certainly encourage my team to take part in that. And, we want to create creative content that people can resonate with and see themselves in that photo and, just feel connected to what's going on there.
And I think a lot of companies out there have paid athletes or endorsers, right? And that's not relatable, right? And people don't in their everyday have someone standing next to them and say, hey, this is my alter ego that is the person I want to be or that I aspire to be. That's great. But we're putting out in front of people who they are, right? And what they're about and relating to those type of values versus, again, this human, not superhuman type quality in individuals.
I follow your guys' Instagram account. And I love when I see a picture of a girl in shorts with stretch marks. I'm like, that's something that I will buy. Truly. I'm so tired of the other brands with their stick thin size 0, one size fits all models. I'm over it. And so I really do appreciate that about you guys. And I think that's community building, right?
Yeah, and some of that content that we posted, it was just natural for us to create that content. We weren't necessarily thinking about it. I guess in the way some of that content went viral.
Yeah.
We didn't post that content for it to go viral. It was literally just natural
authentic
content that comes from our creative process, and just a lot of people resonate with what we're putting up there.
Yeah.
But that's a full cycle process though, right? So even though you're seeing it with current product that's available, that's part of the storyboards that our design team, that our product development team works from inception, right? Those are the type of images that you see if you go into our office that we're building product for, along with the colors that resonate with that seasonal palette or whatnot. Those images are there, and they work their way all the way through the process to that final creative standpoint where we reach out to the consumer via digital forum or in our stores. It's all one cycle with the same intention in mind.
So along that same line, first I want to talk about e-commerce versus in-store, but I also want to ask about your mission. So along all of this, what is your mission?
Get people outside.
Okay. Get people out. Doesn't matter who you are, man, woman,
moving.
whatever background.
Get the world moving. Having fun.
Daily fun.
Love that.
In fact, our Ty has a phrase: "Endorphins make you happy."
That's true.
We just want to, create product and experiences and content that encourage people to do that.
Love that. No matter who you are, where you are, what you look like, love that.
Yep, absolutely.
It's a community feeling.
Absolutely.
It's really difficult in retail to make sure that mission is not only seamless between e-commerce and in-store, but also that your audience feels the same feeling they get online and also in-store. How are you guys making that work?
It's part of our core strategy. So, obviously we started off as an online company and then opened a store in Austin, opened a store in New York, and have since grown to 9 stores total. And we're trying to do a couple of different things on a few different initiatives. So in all of our retail markets, we actually have a field marketer who's deployed into those markets whose sole job is to drive community and activity and recreation.
Wow.
And in a lot of cases, we can use our retail stores as a hub for that. So we can host a yoga class. We actually have kind of a yard at our Austin store, and we can have like a dance class out on the yard at night. We have
cool.
biker clubs that meet up at our store and ride around Austin and then come back.
Yeah, I think the phrase we use internally is activate locally, amplify digitally.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Activate locally, amplify digitally.
That's exactly right.
Got it.
These people come, they have a great time, they create content, they post on Instagram, they hashtag doing things on that, and we're able to kind of spread our message through those various influencer type environments where it just kind of spreads naturally through those communities.
Yeah, and if you walk into any of our retail locations, you would immediately be able to tell they're different, right? They're different from any of our competition. They're different from anything else out there, and that's very intentional. So to Kevin's point, it's we think about it, we do it, and we keep growing the business and gaining a community within each market and even outside the markets that we have specific retail locations in.
Are they different from each other depending on where they are?
Very
Absolutely.
different. Yeah.
Wow.
So part of our store design process is actually to take in the neighborhood that we're going into.
Love that.
And so, like, for example, like when our Boston store was put together, there was a lot of focus on several of the universities up there, rowing, some of the cold seasons. There's a plastered mannequin who looks like maybe an average human, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
He's in a running position like he's doing the Boston Marathon, but you can clearly tell he's not like a super athlete.
Yeah, I love that.
And we try to put these little like local flavors into all of our retail stores.
That's
we did have
awesome.
one thing go wrong. We opened a store in North Park in Dallas.
Okay.
And we had this little basketball arcade that we put in there. And above the backboard, we had doing things in like fluorescent lighting.
Okay.
And that lasted 6 hours until somebody broke it.
Of course,
so
yeah.
we shouldn't have placed the fluorescent lighting right above the backboard. That was a learning.
Right.
And
Imagine if you guys got Shaq in there.
Yeah, it would have been bad. So.
It would have been bad.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But you're saying amplify digitally, so that means maybe more sales are going digitally, but in store, it's not entirely focused on sales more so than it is focused. It's community focused.
That's right. It's both in
Community.
stores, without a doubt.
And that's working.
Yep, that's working. And when we say amplify digitally, think about someone who goes and creates an Instagram story about their bikers club that they did.
Yeah.
That's content that we're able to then amplify through our channels.
Right.
So something happened locally, it was offline, it was a brand moment, and then we're able to share that with the rest of our community and get that message out. So.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Really, really cool takeaways from this. Along that, though, with the successes always come those challenges. What have been some of your biggest challenges to date?
When we started at OV, I guess we were maybe 2 years along the OV journey.
2+, yeah.
Yeah, 2+ years. And so we had, the company had gone from literally nothing to a very fast-moving startup that had a lot of positive press behind it, that had a lot of good investor community behind it, and was growing very rapidly. And the systems that we had in place at the time were allowing the business to function on a daily basis.
But just that.
But it was a very difficult process to get day to day through, and then even just thinking about our growth opportunities in the future, we knew there was a lot of things that we needed to get better at from a tech stack perspective and from an operations perspective to be able to grow this company at the rate that we knew we were going to grow at.
And looking at it from a business perspective, the challenges we had when we first started were many, but they were focused around our ability to have confidence in scaling, confidence in executing what we knew we could do with a way that we could measure success. We were running on systems that we were hopeful, to say nicely, that the information was correct, and really leveraging a lot of our partners to manage what we should be managing in the core of our information.
Yeah.
So we were reaching out to, whether it was our distribution centers, our partners, to help us be successful, and that wasn't going to be something that we could scale with at the velocity our business was growing.
I want to unpack that just a bit. First of all, what systems were you on?
Yeah, it was an ERP system, and I'm doing air quotes right now.
Air quotes.
It was a system that we were over leveraged in. It was more or less an inventory management system that we were trying to use to do procurement and order to cash as well. It was light in its features. I think that's probably the way they sold themselves, but that's not the way we were trying to leverage it. So anytime we wanted to do anything different, anytime we wanted to do anything that was either a moment for the brand, a moment for the team, it was just a challenge, and it didn't need to be a challenge. It was something that we should be able to manage without having to put the level of effort into managing the data, the details. We want to be focused on the brand. We want to be focused on the community. That's where our efforts are going to bring a lot of value to the business. So the systems we were on were not allowing us to focus our efforts in the right areas. They were continuing to pull us back into managing the most minor details of the transactions in the systems.
Yeah, we also had no customization ability in that system as well. So this is what you got out of the box, and if you wanted to do something custom, you really had to build outside services to try to find a way to augment that. And literally, we had built a system that essentially replicated that tool's database into our own database that then we could actually try to do something custom. And when you're looking at that stack, why do we even have that tool to begin with is a question that got asked. Yeah. So it was a big tech challenge for us. It also wasn't a very stable system. So we literally had uptime problems where it would be down for 6 hours. And
then how did that impact the business?
Yeah, we had a few days where the business was literally down for the entire day because of that system.
What do you guys call that day?
I called it Doomsday. Is what I refer to it.
I feel like I said that in my head before you said
internally.
it.
So
I wasn't there for that, but I've heard the story.
yeah, that happened. That happened probably 3 months before we decided to go with NetSuite, and about 8 months before we were able to execute the full implementation of NetSuite. So that was certainly a day that accelerated plans for what we had to do to get this business into the right spot to be able to grow and scale.
But not being there and hearing it and understanding or seeing the dynamics of the business after that, it really put an emphasis and got us the perspective on what we needed to do to scale the business.
And in fact, Tyler, she has a phrase, don't waste a good crisis.
Yep.
So,
learning lesson.
We did not waste that crisis. We used it to make sure that we were going to get better.
If you've ever met a famous athlete at a corporate event or gotten an official autograph, chances are Steiner Sports made it happen. Here's Brandon Steiner.
We believe that there's magic in the moments that sports creates. We get customers closer to the game and help companies use the power of sports to grow their business. We've been in business 30 years, and we've had multiple systems to keep track of all the athletes and all of our customers. Multiple systems means multiple headaches. So we made the move to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite lets us replace all of our finance, inventory, and CRM functions with one convenient system. Now all the departments can see the same data. And if I have a question about our business, I can get the answer quickly.
This month, NetSuite is offering a free 60-minute business review with an expert in your industry to identify opportunities to turbocharge your growth. To get your free review, go to netsuite.com/Steiner. That's netsuite.com/Steiner. netsuite.com/Steiner.
Okay, so walk me through when you guys started looking into new business management solutions and how you ended up coming to NetSuite.
So we had actually a few people at OV who had used NetSuite in a previous life, and a few of our other technology partners also already had integrations with NetSuite and were giving it high marks from a recommendation perspective. So really out of the gates, that was the system that we were seriously considering. From my perspective, I definitely wanted to find a cloud-based solution. We're a small and scrappy team, and I have no desire to try to build an operations team to keep an internal system up and running 24/7 on our own infrastructure like that. You know, that was a big check mark for me as well. And to be super clear, I think the reason we ended up on that is because we had Nate, who was a strong operations leader. We had a controller in place who was a very strong financial leader. Mm-hmm. And then I was bringing the engineering to the table, and kind of that three-headed
dragon, if you will.
Yeah, dragon. I was going to say monster, but I'm like, are we a monster? I don't know. If
No. Dragon seems like
three-headed dragon.
Yeah, is that right? No, we don't know.
Sounds
good.
We were all aligned from requirements and just strategy perspective on that, and it just flowed really nicely through the business as a priority that we were going to go execute.
Was that an alignment that you guys had like built out from Doomsday on, or what, like a history thing? Where does that come from?
Yeah.
I think each of us brought to the table a perspective that was mutually respected and understood to bring value to the overall process and consideration as to what tools we needed to look at, what tools we needed to procure, and then within the tool set, what specifically we needed to focus on and address. I think Kevin and I like to talk the financial lingo, but at the end of the day, like, we don't actually know what we're talking about.
Don't ask me those questions.
So, having a controller's perspective that really understands what it means to put one of these systems in, right? We can process, we can sell all day long, but if we can't record the transactions appropriately and prepare accurate financials, we're in a bad spot at the end of the year.
Scale.
So having that three-headed dragon, as we're calling it, involved, I think not only did it allow us to pick the right tool, it allowed us to put a tool in place in a very fast implementation window with a lot of success. So we went live late October with a big holiday, right after that. And to Kevin's credit, no doomsday. So
got it. Okay, yeah. So backing up a little bit, why did you ultimately choose NetSuite? You said you guys are all on the same page. You kind of got it. Why ultimately NetSuite?
I mean, at the end of the day, it was just the right tool at the right time, and we had the right users already in the company who are familiar with the capabilities. We had the right engineers in-house who were able to, consume that documentation and get going quickly. A lot of things, I think, aligned to allow us to move really quickly with that decision.
We looked at some of our peers out there to see what they were doing. A lot of companies that either we have a strong perspective as to the quality of their business,
right?
And we were kind of seeing what they were doing, and a lot of companies out there were either on or moving towards the NetSuite platform. So that gave us a easy reference as to the quality of the product and being able to quickly move through, what is sometimes a lot of tedious works and asking questions and going through that process. It gave us a quick response to those type of questions and allowed us that once we formulated our perspective to really solidify that and move quickly to an implementation phase.
So you decided upon NetSuite in October, and I'm guessing you wanted it up before Black Friday?
No, so we had
May.
Yeah, May of 2017 is when we made the decision. And it was actually like May 31st. It was the end of May practically.
Whatever the last Friday was.
Yeah, it was the end of May. And then essentially 4.5 months later, we were live right before holiday. So it was a very fast implementation phase for us to get going.
What do you think on the NetSuite side of things? What do you think they got right? What made you go, okay, we can get this done quickly. This is the implementation we feel good about, with implementations being sometimes as difficult as they can be.
So we had two really good NetSuite functional consultants.
Yeah.
But they were in-house NetSuite employees who embedded with us through that implementation phase. They were extremely technical. They had a breadth of knowledge in terms of how other customers had customized NetSuite for the retail vertical and gone live with the platform. And we were able to skip 20 steps probably in just learning how to get this thing up and running, just using their prior knowledge and just expertise in that area. And that allowed us to move fast because we had the right answers when we were asking these questions available to us immediately.
Yeah, and almost as important as to telling us what we should be doing, they had the understanding of what not to do. So we might go off base and they would quickly reel us back in and say, for these specific reasons in a business mindset and a technical mindset, this is why you don't want to do it, and we would quickly move on because we knew that they had that understanding, they had that concept, and they were the experts.
I always want to ask, it's one thing to work with a company like NetSuite as your partner on the B2B side of things and implementing new business processes, but what about on the person-to-person side of things? I mean, you guys had to work with these two people for 4.5 months, pretty nonstop. What did they bring to the table that you felt, that you were okay with and that's a lot of time to work with, people?
I mean, they understood what it was going to take to bring this live. They understood what pressures Kevin and myself were under, the time frame we were under, and they went about it as if it was nothing new, right? So they were available. I remember we were calling them during the implementation at like 2 a.m.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, so during the cutover, so, whenever you launch a system like this, there's a moment where you go from the old system to the new system, but as an online business, you're not closing shop. So you got to have this kind of
beep. Yeah.
you got to transition everything together. And one of our consultants, we were talking, it's like, all right, we're going to do this from, like 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. on a Friday night, try to minimize disruption. And, we've got everything lined out of here's our transition document, what we're going to do. And our consultant said, if you have any problems, call me. I will answer the phone. And we're like, even at like 3 a.m, he's like, call me. I promise I will answer and I will help you solve any problem you come into. And sure enough, like we ran into a problem like 3:30 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
And we called him up and he answered on like the second ring and he had heard the problem before and gave us the answer and we checked 3 boxes and kept going. And that's a moment where it could have gone off the rails bad there because if we couldn't get to an answer at that point, we might have had to delay the launch for another day or two to figure out what we missed. But just the support we had was fantastic.
Yeah, so maybe we go back to the 3-headed dragon comment. We put 5 on there, but I mean, they were people. They weren't just consultants. They were part of the brand at that time that they were there, and we viewed them as almost to the extent we could colleagues, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love hearing that. So, what components of NetSuite did you implement, and has that changed, or has it pretty much remained the same? Can you walk us down that journey?
Yeah, so the primary modules we use right now are order to cash, procure-to-pay, inventory management, and financials. We've looked at a couple additional modules, including fixed assets that we've put in. I don't believe in any large scale we've changed or modified what we have implemented since our original launch date. And that's something that Kevin and I are down here looking at, right? So what are the next iterations of NetSuite in our Outdoor Voices model? And understanding where the priorities of our business are, understanding where the pain points are going to be as we try to address those priorities and what NetSuite can do to help.
Yeah, and in terms of our overall technology stack, Shopify is our e-com platform. Okay. So we use Celigo to integrate Shopify into NetSuite. Our 3PL is a custom 3PL that my team's responsible for that integration. So we've built a custom integration into NetSuite to communicate to our warehouses for all of our fulfillment. We use Avalara for all of our tax calculation, and we just recently built a custom integration for an RFID inventory management system inside of all of our retail stores.
Wow.
And all of that then integrates back into NetSuite so that we can track our inventory master there.
So you're not just working with NetSuite, you're working with a bunch of our partners.
But NetSuite itself is the backbone to enable all of that functionality. So without NetSuite there, we couldn't have done any of that.
Right.
So
100%. So while we haven't necessarily since our launch date, procured additional modules within NetSuite, the additional work we've done outside of NetSuite would not have been possible prior to October 20th of 2017. We would have liked to have walked through a show like this and had the conversations and talked to the people and been like, oh, that'd be really cool, that'd be great. And then we walk away and Kevin and I would quickly go, well, we can't actually do that, right? So now we don't have that conversation. Now it's picking from the array of opportunities we have and understanding what of those vendors can help us, again, achieve the strategic goals that we have at Outdoor Voices.
Wow. So how has this, relationship with NetSuite helped you have overcome those challenges you guys had mentioned earlier in order to help you continue to scale?
I have confidence in the system
And the data.
and the data, and I cannot say that about the previous
data.
system.
Yeah.
I think, like Nate just said, it just allows us to solve new problems that just drive more business opportunity. Some of those things are like operational excellence from just our supply chain management and our ability to get products to the warehouse faster and have a cleaner view of how those things are actually moving and be able to track all the individual shipments that are going out to all of our customers and manage SLAs with our various partners there and ensure a great customer experience. I think I could keep going, but it just enables us to just really make sure we have a holistic picture of the customer and that everything we're doing there is contributing to the overall brand and vision.
Yeah, it allows us to make decisions that we weren't otherwise able to make before, either again through data or reporting, as Kevin touched on. But before we were dangling in different areas or making attempts to forge the business at different areas without maybe a conscious perspective on what that was going to do. And now we have a system that can help us measure those objectives and understand were we successful or were we not successful and help us augment or change path along the way.
What about efficiency-wise? How has NetSuite allowed Outdoor Voices to operate more efficiently?
So in the 2+ years I've been at Outdoor Voices, NetSuite by far has been the most adopted system that we've put in place. So from a user standpoint, users are able to execute on things that were otherwise outside a enterprise level system, and it creates a single source of truth for a lot of the information that we're exchanging. So all the way from meetings that people maybe not realize that people are bringing to the table, reports that all of us have the same access to the same information, all the way down to the sending orders in a much more effective way or posting inventory in a much more effective way. We've grown 4 times in our transactional volume in the 2 years that I've been at Outdoor Voices. So it allows employees to be more efficient, more effective without having to scale in necessary headcount, which isn't a bad thing, but it allows them to focus and be successful in what they bring to the table versus having to focus on crunching Excel spreadsheets all day long or doing things that the system should otherwise be doing.
Well, not only that, it helps you focus on what you guys were just talking to me about at the beginning of this podcast, which is the community part and the building that out. And not a lot of companies are able to go into their communities, make every store different, cater to the community that they're in. And you guys are able to focus on that, right?
Yep.
Pretty incredible. You guys are talking a lot about one thing that we always bring up here at NetSuite, which is the impact of visibility, control, and agility. What would you tell, let's say, a retailer who's just starting out and not quite sure what systems to be on, not quite sure, where they can make the right choices early on in order to have that?
I think it's important that whatever system you would go with, I don't think there's a system out there where it's just like an out-of-the-box solution that you take off a shelf and turn it on and then life is better.
Yeah.
It requires, continued investment. It requires people being bought into the system. It requires people knowing how to do their jobs in those systems. It requires even a culture of people asking, how can I do my job better with this new system? I mean, that's how you get adoption. That's how you drive process improvement. It can't just be like a top-down, thou shalt use this new thing, and there are no other conversations that can be had.
Right.
That's certainly not the way we try to operate at OV. So, I think that'd probably be my overall advice I'd give to someone in that position is you can't be thinking short term. You got to be thinking long term of how is this actually going to be used by the people on the ground who are making the things happen inside the business every day.
Love that. Speaking of roles, how has NetSuite and implementing NetSuite helped you both in your positions? We talked about what it was like before implementing NetSuite. Not just business wise, but like maybe on like a personal level. Like what would you guys be doing if you hadn't implemented NetSuite in 2017?
It allows us to manage our own inventory.
Yeah,
I had a lot more status alerts set up to my phone from a is it up perspective on the old system that I need to worry about now. So I probably sleep a little bit better.
There you go.
Slightly.
Spend more time doing the things that are important.
Exactly.
NetSuite allows us to operate at, again, the velocity with the level of confidence that as we scale, as we grow, It's not going to be perfect. It's going to take, teams to understand how we use the system to support the business for sure.
Yeah.
But we have the confidence that the system is there, and it's going to be, with some work, able to support our business in the long term, not just over the next year, not over the next 2 years, but as we grow. So from my team specifically, we are focused on things outside of NetSuite that we don't have to worry about anymore. So looking at where we can save on opportunities, improve the customer experience, right? Improve that customer journey from the time they place that order to the time they're getting those items versus just trying to get the order in the system, get it shipped, get a label on it, and out the door. So we are focused on the things that are important to our customer, not important to our supply chain.
Love that. Speaking of, where are you guys headed in the future? What can we expect from Outdoor Voices as we move forward? What new things are going to happen? Are you guys international?
Not yet. That's on the.
Is that on the vision board?
That's on the vision board. That's on the map. Certainly, that's something Nate and I have already spent some time kind of penciling out and planning. How do we grow this brand from an international perspective? There's a lot of nuances in that, especially with things like GDPR now. Luckily, Nate has done this before in terms of shipping internationally and managing a lot of those logistics. So I don't have to learn a lot. I can just ask Nate to go figure it out, which is great.
There you go.
But seriously, I think one of the investments, especially that my team's making, is a focus on how can we find ways to continue to leverage technology to encourage people to be active. That's a kind of a hard nut to crack because, you think about Nike and Under Armour and, some of those other brands, they go out and build these fitness tracking apps that are tracking heart rate and speed and calories burned and, all of these like metrics that are very performance oriented. And our approach is way more light touch. We want to be encouraging people just from a fun perspective. So how can we let people know what's going on? How can we encourage them to join a community that maybe they wouldn't have been aware of before we were able to put that information in front of them and, just encouraging them to be active. So that's an area, I think, of heavy investment that we're putting a lot of thought behind right now of how can we make that process even just easier for the customers out there.
Very cool. Well, thank you both so much for joining us on this episode of the NetSuite podcast. And I look forward to see where you guys headed in the future. I have a lot of Outdoors Voices stuff. So
great.
I will continue
Keep
to rock
rocking
it with a passion now
Great.
after talking to you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Love that advice there at the end. Find a community that wants or needs a product and adapt the product and the marketing around it to fit that specific group. Always plan for the long term and prepare to make continued investments in the systems that will help you reach your goals. Thank you so much to Kevin Harwood and Nate Peterson from Outdoor Voices for joining us on this episode of the NetSuite podcast. I also want to shout out to everyone who made it possible, our sponsors over at Hint, Steiner Sports, as well as our editing crew over at Lampstand, and all you listeners for tuning in. Until next time.
You just listened to the NetSuite podcast. Be sure to tune in every week with more NetSuite developments, stories, and insights into the benefits of one integrated system to help you run your business.